I want to welcome everybody to our coaching call today. Our goal is to provide you with information and ideas on how to take your real estate career to the next level. And today we have a very special guest with us, a wonderful agent by the name of Andrew Smith. Now, normally I say where he's from, but he actually lives in two different places, and he's going to tell us a little bit about that. And he's going to share some of his history and ideas that I think can really make a difference for you. So I'd like to welcome Andrew Smith. So Andrew, just tell us a little bit about who you are, your background.
Well, kind of a varied background. I have family originally. Actually, all the family except us is from England. So I spent a youth growing up most of the time in the United States. But when I was a freshman in high school, we moved to England, and so I spent about 10 years back and forth there. It gave me kind of a different perspective in seeing, how other cultures and other people live, and kind of opened my eyes a little bit different, and kind of set me on a path to trying to, learn more about that, learn more about people.
All right.
So back and forth there, was mainly involved in consulting type of work. Got tired of that and jumped into professional golf of all things. So played professional golf for a couple of years and was gone all the time, which my wife wasn't too happy about. And so I figured I, did what many people probably do and said, well, okay, then I'll get into real estate, and made that jump in 2003.
All right. So now tell us a little bit about your marketplace and where you've built your business, and just give us a little, price range, different things like that.
So my primary marketplace, the one I entered into in 2003, is Temecula, California. So Temecula, California it's basically a bedroom community to San Diego and Orange counties. We're about an hour, a little bit southeast of Orange County. We're an hour north of San Diego. And so most of the people in this area, their primary workplace is either in Orange County or in San Diego County. So you have people that were looking for more affordable housing that basically moved into this area. So in that marketplace, it has grown substantially. When I moved to Temecula myself in 1994, there was 19,000 people here. And the latest charts I've seen show us right at about 120,000 people now. So it's grown substantially. And the average sales price has varied. We were hit very hard by the downturn. But this year we're tracking at about 425,000. And then this year as well, I opened up a second marketplace in North Dallas. So I'm in Dallas, Texas as well.
So that's such an interesting concept, and I'm very excited for people to hear about that. But how do you have two totally different markets, two different states? I mean, that's a significant commute. So how does that work?
It is a significant commute, but whether it's real estate or any business, it's always based on people. And if you have the right people in place, you can move mountains and accomplish great things. And we've been able to do that. So one of the things over the years that we learned was, in order to grow effectively, we need to make sure we surround ourselves with the right people. It's not easy. It's been a challenge, but it's the path we chose to go. I had always had a goal within me to expand. Originally, I think very early on, you and I had a conversation when I thought, well, what if I set up kind of a real estate office that only did golf course properties on the best golf resorts across the country? And so that kind of, the idea kind of was born there, and it kind of manifested since. Dallas was not on our map by any means, but we had some really good friends move there a couple of years ago, and they kept saying, you should see what's going on. And so we did, and the market was growing like gangbusters. It was crazy. So we're like, okay, let's figure out how to do this. So kind of jumped in with both feet and left the team in California here could basically run itself. So we've kind of done things a little bit in reverse. We're establishing a team in the Dallas marketplace and centralizing all of our support services, such as administration, marketing, sales, and things like that in one location, which actually creates quite a bit of efficiency.
All right. So before we get too far into that, first of all, just give us a little. How many transactions in Temecula are you doing a year?
Temecula, well, it's kind of an interesting story. So, in there, the Temecula market for us is growing again now. So after the downturn and after all of the short sales and bank-owned properties that we went through here, to be honest with you, I got pretty burnt out by it. And I would basically wound everything I was doing completely down. I didn't even know if I wanted to stay in real estate. And it was kind of a time period where we went on a little bit of a search. I started coaching heavily soccer teams that my kids were playing in. I was coaching 3 different teams at a time and basically working just enough to make sure the bills were paid, trying to figure out what I was going to do, so to speak. We kind of changed that around, and I got dedicated back into real estate again. Honestly, at the beginning of 2014 is when we really started to move things again. And, we grew it from there. I believe, we've gone, in the last year, we've done 35 transactions year to date this year, which was up from last year, and we're growing right now.
All right. So let's start with some basics. If I met you at a social function and you had 30 seconds to tell me what you did, who you are, what would your elevator pitch be?
I like that. We would say I run a real estate team under the umbrella of Keller Williams across multiple locations in an effort to help people achieve their real estate goals.
All right. So what do you think is the number one keys to your success as a realtor?
It's been a long learning curve, to be honest with you, but it's staying focused on the basics and the principles. Quite often, everyone always gets into the business and they're looking for what's the silver bullet, what's the new technology, what's the thing that is going to propel me, take the shortcut. It doesn't mean you can't accelerate your growth, but it's interesting in the fact that it was earlier this year, to be honest with you, I had heard for years from yourself at events that I'd attended, Keller Williams events that I'd attended, other events that I had attended, the same type of message over and over. And it was actually only in the last year where it kind of hit me. And it's like, oh my gosh, what have I been doing all of this time? So we have really stayed focused now again on the brand, stayed focused on committing to 1 or 2 areas that we're going to master, and sticking to that rather than saying, okay, I'm going to try this for a little while and then jump, try this for a little while and jump, which is hard because my personality style wants to see results immediately, and I'll get bored. I want to move on to the next thing.
All right. So tell me, what are you focusing on in the Temecula area right now?
In the Temecula area, yes, Temecula area right now, because of the way we'd wound it down on new business, we did have a very large, strong database of past clients. So we got dedicated back into the past clients, kind of updated them on what we were doing, and reaching out to them, and going back and asking for referrals. As a result, our referral business and repeat client business is way up this year. We've also been focused more on social media and internet marketing in order to draw in new business as well.
So how often do you stay in touch with those past clients?
We're in touch with the past clients monthly.
All right. I mean, and to me, that's so critical. And yet so many agents think, oh, well, I should only stay in touch with them, once a quarter, a couple times a year. And I found unless you're staying in touch with them monthly, they just quickly get you out of sight. I mean, that's what I stress, and it's so good to hear you doing that. So now, tell me, what was the motivation to creating a second marketplace in Dallas?
So I think, when I took some time away, what it really made me realize again is what an amazing opportunity this business actually affords everybody. The growth potential is unlimited, but you have to think bigger. You have to expand your mind and to think what is possible. So for us, it came about for a fact that I think from a personal level, we were ready for some sort of a change. We didn't know what it was, but we just knew that we'd reached a point where we wanted to make a change. So with that in mind, we thought, okay, what would that change be? And as I said, I'd always imagined that we would expand. That had always been appealing to me. But honestly, our goal was we were going to set something up in Scottsdale, Arizona, and in North San Diego. And the idea behind it was 100% selfish, to be honest with you. It was let the kids go through school, and we're going to spend winters in Scottsdale and summers in Carlsbad. That was the focal point. But like I said, this opportunity almost fell into our lap, so to speak. It's a marketplace that we had not considered. And so when I looked at my wife and said, "Hey, what do you think about this?" She kind of got her big eyes and looked at me and said, "Why would you do that?" And I go, "Why not?" So at that point in time, it's very interesting. And you've always taught to focus on the end result, to focus on the goal, to dream big, to break through. And ironically enough, I think the biggest challenge most people have is they come up with an idea and they go, "How am I going to accomplish that? How is that going to work?" And the truth of the matter is when you get yourself focused on that end result and stay focused to that dream, the how doesn't matter. It takes care of itself. It's almost like a magnet. It just pulls you through, and the people and opportunities that you're looking for seem to appear out of nowhere.
It is amazing that way. Now, I know you're flying to Dallas a little bit later today.
Yes.
So, where do you actually live?
I actually live, my family and I, we live in Dallas now. So we are on it's actually not as bad as many people would imagine it to be. A couple of the days of the week get long. But to be honest with you, I know plenty of people locally that in our Southern California traffic commute just as long as I do, but don't travel halfway across the country doing it. So I'm on a schedule right now where I split time between offices. The predominant office I'm in is the Dallas one. I am back in the Temecula office about every 16 to 17 days. And that schedule usually goes is it's an early morning. I take a 7 o'clock flight out of Dallas, so it's 5 a.m. here. I land in San Diego at 8 a.m. and I'm usually at my desk in Temecula by 9:30. I work Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday here, and I take a Thursday evening flight back to Dallas. I think one of the things that afforded us the opportunity to do that is technology. Technology has grown to such an extent that we do everything basically through toll-free numbers. Obviously, most documents are signed electronically nowadays, and email's so prevalent that 9 times out of 10, when I'm speaking to someone, they have no idea where I am anyway. And and I've got people on the ground in the location. So, the summer was kind of a test. Let's see how this would work, and we haven't missed a beat.
All right. So now, in establishing a brand new market in Dallas, how did you approach doing that?
The the interesting thing is you take everything that you've learned from the market that you're coming from, and now you know not what to do. So in there, it's pulling off the principles. Real estate is real estate is real estate, no matter where you are. So the first thing that we did there is and it's still formulating. We didn't arrive in Dallas till the first week of June. And I basically took the summer off. I was concerned that I wanted the kids to be settled, get them taken care of. So it wasn't until August when I actually sat down and took the Texas real estate test. So the office in Dallas I've been in for about five to 6 weeks now. So in there again, I knew a couple of people that were there. So just like here, really went to any sort of quote unquote sphere and said, "Hey, I'm all set to go." Started utilizing the parents on the soccer team that my son was playing for. But the ironic thing out of all of it is as soon as I made the announcement and what I'm doing, the first couple of deals that we've been involved in, one was a house we sold here in Temecula, and ironically, the people were moving to Dallas, so we helped them on both sides. We then got an offer in on a property that we have listed here in Temecula that was a contingent offer on a house being sold, which worked out great for the sellers. It turns out that that house being sold was 5 minutes from where I live in Dallas, and they weren't happy with that agent. They let them out of that contract, and we listed that property as well. So, it's utilizing that aspect, but it's going back to the basics, and really starting to do the market research, looking at the turnover rates in the different areas, being very specific and focused in what we're doing, and strategic about it.
All right. So, one of the things that you have is you have some experience. When you were starting out in real estate, what is the one thing you wish somebody would have sat down with you and said, this is something you really need to know about the real estate industry? What's the best advice that you could have gotten when you were brand new?
It's not as easy as you think, um, but perseverance will see you through. Don't listen to the people all around you. Don't be influenced. We actually have some wristbands being made up right now. And it basically has our logo on it, and it just says 100/0. And the concept behind that, and I think it's great for my kids and in their homework and in what we're trying to instill in them, the concept is you're 100% accountable with no excuses. And that is, if someone would have let me know that early on, because it's very easy when you're trying, so it's raining today, no one's going to be out looking at homes. It's too hot, it's too cold, there's no one there, the market's good, the market's bad. All of that's noise. It's all nonsense. If you just stay, have a plan. It doesn't matter what it is. Have a plan, whether you're going to do things on social media, whether you're going to start out in open houses. It doesn't matter. Have a plan, master that one thing, and stay at it. Stay at it. Stay at it. Because the truth is, you can be successful in any of those channels as long as you master them.
I mean, I think that's so critical. I mean, I see so many agents do what I call the plan of the week. They do something for a week or two and they say, well, that didn't get me a listing, so let me go try this and let me go try that. Instead of saying, how do I take and build, a consistent brand or a consistent image over 6 months or a year? And if you have that long-term focus, I found that in the long run, you always succeed. But if you are in that frenetic, I'm looking desperate for a transaction, you almost never succeed. It's so frustrating that way. So tell us, what was the worst moment for you in your real estate career? What's the sort of like the lowest point, the most difficult thing that you faced?
For us here, to be honest with you, it was the short sale market. And the reason I say that is because obviously you start out in the business, and the concept for people getting in is that it's fairly easy. You don't have to do a lot, and you make a lot of money. And then, as you well know, people get into the habit then of chasing transactions, chasing more deals, more deals, more deals. And what really hit me is when we entered into that short sale market, I can't tell you how many, hundreds of living rooms I've sat in, and you suddenly realized at that point in time that the business is not about houses or transactions. It truly is about people. And it really starts to focus a different way. Instead of getting called to say, hey, can you come and list this house? It's, hey, we've got a situation we want to talk to you about. So anything from cheating spouses to gambling problems to drinking to drug abuse to a suicide in the family to horrific illnesses, I've heard. And you became a counselor, and it really sat there and thought, these people are losing everything. They're losing their house, and they're actually grasping for any glimmer of hope that you can possibly give them. They just need someone to let them know it's going to be okay. And it was eye-opening, because at that point in time, the house and the transaction and the sale was irrelevant. It really was a dedicated focus in, okay, these people are at the end of their rope. How do they hang on? How do we help them? What can we do? And in there, that was probably, it was the low point, but also the aha turning point as well on how we are really in a people business, and it truly is about relationships. And like I said, when you hear all those stories, it took its toll, and I took some time off after it.
And I think one of the things that I really hope our listeners listen to is that it is about people and it is about relationships. And I think the reason that you did so well during that very difficult time is that you cared about every one of those people.
Yeah.
And so many agents get hung up on, the marketing plan, and that's important, but it starts by saying, what's the real value? What's the thing I'm going to bring to my clients? And if you can keep your clients first and foremost in your brain, just like you said, it makes such a huge difference, because it will now motivate you to be there for them. Now, sometimes it is mentally exhausting, because during the difficult times and people were losing everything, it takes a huge toll on you as well because you feel for them as they're going through those difficult times. I mean, to me, that's the hardest part of it, but it's also you're made a huge difference in those people's lives. And now, years removed from that, you can look back and say, gosh, I really did a huge value. And I bet if we reached out to those people, they would be incredibly grateful to you for giving them that glimmer of hope and helping them through that very difficult transaction. And like everything, it does pass. It
It it does, and to be honest with you, those people are the largest source of our referrals and current business now. Um, and it does. Everything comes full circle. And like I said, you hear different things all the time. And I'm a big proponent of Dave Ramsey and attend a lot of his events and work with his team pretty closely. And it's interesting. And the one comment, you have to give to receive. And the key point in that is you have to give first before you can receive. And the more you give, the more things come back to you, and you're paid 100-fold over. And we've seen that. And I think in that change and in going through that time and in now rebuilding, people say, well, how do you define success, or what's successful to you? To be honest with you, it's got nothing to do with transactions. It's got nothing to do with volume. It has everything to do with how many lives have you touched, and what a difference have you made. And we've started incorporating all of that into all of our follow-up campaigns, all of our touch programs, everything there. It's always looking to give value. What can we give? How do we look at this and say, it's not about that transaction. That will come. What can we do? What's the situation we're dealing with, and how do we add value to that?
So, Andrew, how do you communicate that in your brand, in the marketing pieces that you do? What's the core message that and how are you communicating that?
We're actually we're redoing it right now. So I'll be honest with you, and when you speak about that brand, I've been as guilty as anyone else in that, we've had, the brochures, the websites, the special reports, everything that all tied in and looked together. And I've sat there at times and different things going, well, that guy doesn't have any of that, and he's doing 3 times the volume. So is that really needed? Is that, and you go in that full circle. As I sat and reflected and looked back at some of the successful years in the past, what I realized is, wow, the thing that made the difference in that was the brand. It wasn't anyone different. It's what we stood for, and it's what we did, and it's when we were involved in the community. We were doing different events. We had, giveaways, you name it, anything along those lines is when we saw consistent growth over and over and over. Well, now, as we're looking at it, that's one of our priorities for the fourth and the first quarter is looking at, okay, what exactly do we stand for? How do we make this bigger than what it is that we're trying to do? So in the simplest format, in our marketing messages, even if you look at something as generic as an internet lead that comes in, our follow-up campaign changed from, I see that you registered on our website, how can we help you? We took anything salesy about it, and it's now, we just wanted to follow up. I'm with the customer service department of, calltemecula.home.com. We noticed that you'd saved the search and just wanted to see if you had any questions that we could answer at this time. The minute we changed from, do you want to go look at homes this weekend? Do you want a list of free foreclosures? Do you want this? Our response rate more than doubled. So we started there and then have started building that out and adding it on further and further and further.
I mean, I think that's so important. The more value that people perceive that you're providing them, the more loyalty and the more they feel comfortable now thinking of you as their realtor. And
exactly. I mean, you've taught for years, people do business with who they know, like, and trust. So you have to build up that trust first.
And I think that so many times agents forget that their number one job is getting people to know them and like them.
Right.
And they so focus on real estate so quickly, and it's like that becomes the end all be all. I'm going to work harder, provide, more information, do more flyers. And that's not really what it's all about. It's about making that connection and getting people to connect with you as a human being.
Right. That's absolutely the key. And in fact, we just had a meeting in the office yesterday, and we were speaking to the buyer specialist. over some responses that we were doing, and she actually got a great response to one of those emails that went out. And she was saying, "Hey, I was just going to respond back to that." And it was funny. And she told me what her response was going to be. And I just smiled and I said, "How about we tweak that?" She's like, "I don't understand. What do you mean?" I go, "Read what the message said." Well, she told me what type of house that she's looking for. I said, "Read further. Read past that." Well, she's got two large dogs. I said, "Exactly. And what else?" She's worried about taxes. She lives in the Northwest right now. I said, "Exactly." I said, "So now go back to it. Explain, hey, I understand why it's a concern to you." I go, "It's bright and sunny here. Look at the weather there. It's raining." Snap a picture outside and say, "Hey, you know what? Sunshine's expensive, so the taxes are covering some of that for you." Relate a message back into the dogs. And then in a month from now, when you follow up again and you found another property for her, don't go back and say, "Hey, I found this great new property." Say, "Look at this backyard that would be perfect for your dogs." You're making a connection on a level that is just different. And as simplistic as that sounds, people are like, "That's so stupid. It's so simple. It won't work." And it's like, no, that's exactly what will work.
it, the obvious is always right there in front of our faces, and
Yes,
we so often ignore it.
we do. We do.
We want to make it complicated and difficult right from the very beginning instead of saying, "Gosh, I really want to help you live a better, high quality life."
Right. Exactly.
I've never figured out why we as agents do that so consistently, and it drives me crazy. And yet it's something I know I have to fight in my own life, and I see consistently with my clients. It's so amazing that way. So tell me, what do you think your biggest strength, and then we're sort of around that, your biggest strength as a realtor actually is?
Um, Meeting with I predominantly, I'm only focused on, for a while now, I've only been focused on the listing side of the business. It's difficult when you're in two locations, but the biggest strength has honestly been creating that connection with people in the appointment. If you can get me in front of someone, we look back over the years, our listing appointment to list conversion rate is 96%. It's ridiculously high. And the only thing is because I don't walk in with a normal CMA and stats and different things like that. I walk in just to get to know them, understand what they're trying to achieve, the blue ocean strategy, if you
All
like,
right.
and really taking that and then trying to move it to the next level with a follow up. People come back and go, "Well, did you bring any market information?" "Well, what market information are you looking for?" "Well, what sold recently?" "Well, why does that matter? Let's understand what you're trying to do." "Well, I hear the house down the street." "Well, we don't know what the story was behind that. Was it a divorce? Was it tenant occupied?" It doesn't tell us everything we need. Let's figure out where you want to be by when you want to be there, and then we put the plan together in how we're going to achieve that goal for you. And in going through that, it's made a huge difference. I mean, even the simple things. I was on one yesterday morning. Walked in. She goes, "Would you like a tour of the house?" "I would love one." First room as you go in is full of baseball memorabilia. And I'm not a big baseball guy. And I said, "Oh, wow, look at all of that memorabilia. Oh, my husband's fanatical about baseball." I go, "Oh, that's great." I go, "Your husband would probably really like one of the kids that's played soccer for me for years. His dad's a scout for the White Sox." "Oh my gosh, he's a scout for the White." "Yeah, he's a scout. Maybe I can have, your husband talk to him sometime." Super nice guy. It changed the conversation instantly, and it was within 5 minutes. And it had nothing to do with anything other than, something that you found common.
But now once you make that connection, it makes such a huge difference. And one of the things, I mean, in my listing presentation class, one of the things I talk about is the fact that so many agents, they show up at a listing and it's like they're rushing to get to their listing presentation manual or their PowerPoint presentation, and that disconnects you from making that human connection
Yeah.
and really finding out what is it that they're trying to accomplish. What impact is that move going to have on them? And I think when you take the time to find that, now you build so much more rapport. And now all the traditional things, you know, commissions and pricing and everything else become much easier because you have a human connection.
Right.
So, how do you deal with typical objections, or do you get those typical objections at a listing presentation when you approach it this way?
We, I honestly haven't had many objections for quite a few years, just because of all those reasons. You know, I will actually a version of your listing presentation I teach in the market centers to new agents coming in as part of the training class. And everyone says, "There's no way that will work." And I'm like, "There's no way it can't work." And I love telling them the story. On this one time, I went into this house and we went all the way through, and we were just talking. I'd probably been there an hour and a half, and you know, everyone's getting along great. And you know, the husband finally says to me, he goes, "Man, it feels like we could talk forever, but that's not really fair. I guess we should let you come down to and give your presentation." And I just looked at him and smiled and go, "I've been doing that for the last hour and a half." And he just laughed and said, "Where do we sign?" And it really does make that. You know, you really, when you start talking about objections, the only thing people are going to really object at potentially is price and commission. When you look at that, I don't get it very much. I'll have people talk more about price than I will about commission. And when I'm dealing with the price, I just let them know up front, we're going to work on the price together, because I appreciate the fact that, you know, you want me to help you come up with a price, but unfortunately the powers of be don't give me any control over the price of the market. The market does. I want to get you as much money, and we have a system that's proven and repeatable and backed by market research that shows and demonstrates we're going to get you the highest dollar amount possible in the shortest amount of time. So why don't we go over what that system is and come up with a strategy together?
All right. So I definitely think that I see your biggest connection, your biggest strength as a realtor is your ability to connect and relate to people. What do you think your biggest weakness is?
Impatience. It's, you know, it's like I think I said at the beginning, my personality style is I want to see things happen now. You know, I basically have, you know, on the team, I'm the idea person, and there's always got to be someone kind of pulling me back and saying, "Hey, you know what? I love the vision, I love the concept, but you know, we got to get there." And so I'll just have a habit of running and just want to keep going and not always take the time to actually sit there and truly understand. Even though I spend a lot of time with a client understanding what their needs are, I don't necessarily always spend as much time understanding the needs of my team members. And that's what I've found over the years in really turning around on that aspect and slowing down a little bit and satisfying their concerns, their fears on where we're going and what we're doing.
So give us a quick overview of your team. How many people do you have? How does that work? What's the structure?
Well, the team right now, so like I said, we wound down over the years. We were at 7, we're down to 4, but rapidly right now looking for new people. So if any of your listeners out there in Southern California or Dallas and are looking for something or want to talk, we'd be happy to talk to them. So what we're doing right now is I'm bringing on a new listing agent to replace myself here in Temecula. We have a buyer specialist here locally as well. We're currently recruiting for a buyer specialist in Dallas. And then in Dallas, we have an admin/marketing person that helps put together some postcards, some pieces, take care of a lot of that. And then we've also got our closing manager is based in Dallas as well and handles all of the closing and file work for both markets. So the areas where we're looking to fill right now, as I mentioned, listing specialist here in Temecula, buyer specialist in Dallas, and we're also looking at bringing in an outside sales agent right now as well.
So one of the things that I get asked all the time is, you know, I'm thinking about getting a buyer specialist. How do I pay them? How do you pay your buyer specialist?
We pay ours, it's a standard split that we do. We actually do a 60-40 split where we're keeping 60, the buyer's agent's got 40. I know when I first have brought that up to people, their eyes will go wide and go, "How do you do that?" And I say, "Well, let's run the numbers and look at it." So in that, if they hit their goals, they'll also get an override and a bonus as well, which may vary from additional 5 or 10%. In the way we're actually structured, the buyer specialist's only responsibility is to show property and write contracts. That's it. Anything and everything else that they need and all the support is provided. They have no expenses; they're all covered. Obviously, we do a lot of training, always working on new ideas. So the leads come in. We've got someone following up on those, trying to set appointments on the buyer specialist's behalf, and then it kind of works through from there.
Well, see, and to me, that's the big piece that I think most agents are missing, is that you're actually generating leads and feeding them to your buyer's agent. You're helping them generate more income, even though they're getting a 40% split. You're helping them make more than they would if they had to go out and do the lead generation all themselves.
Correct. And as you know, I mean, a lot of those things are not cheap. I mean, we run pay-per-click campaigns and do different things like there, and those costs can add up quickly. Not only that, once we have a contract that's signed, they don't touch it again. They don't have a file. They've got nothing to do. It's a seamless transition process over, where at that point in time they don't have anything involved. They don't have any involvement. They'll attend the home inspection, but that's it. From there, it's handled by the closing manager, coordinates anything and everything that's going on from there.
All right. So I do think that you provide a great value to your buyers people that most agents don't make. I talk to so many agents who say, well, I'm going to hire a buyer specialist, and they're struggling themselves. And I think, well, you aren't generating enough leads for yourself. How are you going to hire somebody? They said, well, I'm going to have them cold call.
I do two different roles.
It's like, no, you're confusing what a buyer specialist is actually all about.
Right.
So it always amazes me that. So just tell me, what is the one thing that you're most excited about right now?
Man, the one thing I'm most excited about right now is actually the opportunity before us. We've really done a good job at eliminating the noise, and we're actually kind of, I don't want to say retooling the brand, but we're really tying in and become focused in on what do we stand for, and realizing that, again, it's not about the real estate. So right now, we're looking at a program in which that we're going to align ourselves with a charity of some sort, something bigger. One of the ones that we're looking at and considering strongly is a group out of New York called Charity Water. And the concept behind them is that started by a guy that was, I believe, in the financial markets, got sick of it. And what he did is he gave up his birthday in the month of September and asked everyone, instead of taking him out to dinner or buying it, to donate. And what they did is they looked at that and they said, there's 1 billion people on this planet that don't have clean drinking water. And that's wrong. And I want to do something about it. And so they've been working at this for about 10 years. That number's down to 643 million. So they're making a huge dent. So for us, in saying, hey, you know what, in addition to providing all of the research and everything that we can do for you on a real estate transaction, we're also involved in something bigger, and a percentage of every single transaction we're involved in is going towards making a difference. And for me, and what strikes it with the team itself is, you sit there at the end of your days and you're in your rocking chair on a porch and you look back, no one's really going to care if you did 1,000 transactions. But, if you made a difference in 1 million people's lives, now you've got something to hang a hat on.
I think that's so valuable. And I think that it also gives you a sense of what I'm doing is meaningful.
Right.
And I personally believe that as human beings, we all are looking to have meaning in our lives. And if we feel like we're making a difference, we can get through the difficulty, the frustrations, the hard times so much more effectively. And when we go home, we're able to feel like, gosh, I did make a difference today. Yes, it was hard at times, but at the end of the day, I feel good because I did make a difference in that other person's life.
Right.
Well, tell us about, what are your goals for the next 2 or 3 years for you personally?
So for the next 2 or 3 years, as I mentioned, we're currently operating in Temecula. We've got the office being built and set up in Dallas. We also, in early part of next year, are looking at expanding into Carlsbad as well. We figure if you're going to, create new material for one location, why not do two? So we're looking at that as well. We really want to, I want to, within those couple of years, possibly by the end of it, look at being in 5 different locations. I would like my role to transition out of anything to do with the day-to-day running, an operation of the team. I love going more into, coaching the team, training the team, looking for strategic partnerships, focusing on new relationships and opportunities, and also really building up that charity side. Really, I'm working closely with your office right now as well on how we really tell that story, how we really build that and make a difference, and spend some time promoting that, and see what sort of traction we could have. And at some point, rather than just aligning with someone, I think it would be great to get our own charity going. That's where I'm heading. It's maybe it's just because I'm getting older, but you start looking back and you think transactions aren't your legacy. What's your legacy line look like, and what kind of a difference have you made? And very tuned into the fact that we're in an industry with an opportunity with unlimited income potential and the ability to make a difference in a lot more lives than our own.
So, it's interesting in that I know that you're very happy with Keller Williams, but are you thinking about starting your own brokerage company or?
No. Um, to me, I've looked at it in several different ways, and to be honest with you, I don't really have any need to do that. I think the culture and the what Keller Williams believe in aligns very closely with our own culture. Their core values align with our team's core values. And as Gary Keller himself said it, I mean, as he looked at it, expansion is a Keller Williams push. It's where they see the future of real estate going. And as he says, he's just basically built a distribution network for the agents to use. So with that in mind, if you think about it, I've gone halfway across the country into a new city and virtually overnight plugged into a system that provides me office space. I have all the support staff I need. I've got all of the systems I'm comfortable with and in place. I have phones, I have copiers, I have insurance. I don't need to do anything. I don't need to carry that burden myself. As those expenses, the cap fee that Keller Williams charges, they only exist if we produce. If I don't produce, I don't have an office, I don't have rent, I don't have insurance, I don't have a phone system. So I don't see any reason not to just stay within that system and that umbrella right now.
Well, and to me, that's such a smart move. I see so many great agents that somehow feel like, oh, well, I'm going to go start my own brokerage. And they always severely underestimate the time, effort, and the distraction of actually running a real estate company.
Right.
They always think it's going to give them more freedom, and it's never that way. I always think of Jay Canone. He took so much money, opened up this big, beautiful office, filled it with agents, and 2 years later was so unhappy because he just never anticipated how many problems agents would bring to him every single day.
Right. Exactly true. And I mean, you've told a great story on why a broker is called broker. It's true. I mean, it's a way to, the only way to do what we're doing is, to me, is you have to truly grasp and understand what running a business means. You have to build a strong culture. We're able to run very efficiently because we have people whose values are aligned with our own. And we create a culture that allows unlimited growth opportunity and support. And it really is all about those people. I'm also able, within the Keller Williams system now, I mean, they handle the big push on the recruiting for me. So I simply just give a profile. Here's what I'm looking for. They're interviewing people every day. So there's a lot of things on the training and the aspect there where they can do some of that heavy lifting. So I can truly just focus in on where I want the team to go, how we're building the brand, what we're doing, what we stand for, and items like that.
All right. So if an agent sat down with you, what's the three best things you could tell them on how to grow their business?
On how to grow their business. Be very clear on where you want to go. I sat down the one time, and I remember talking to this individual at an event, and they were saying, well, why are you in the business? It's like, well, I want to help people. Why? Well, the more people I help, the more money we make. Why? And it basically just kept coming to those whys. I think we drilled down to 12 whys, and they started getting very, very difficult to answer. And the truth is, any road will get you there if you don't know where you're going. So be very clear and specific on where it is that you want to go. What are your 5 and 10 year goals? It's okay if they're audacious and huge and big, but there's got to be something pulling you forward, and then really start looking at why you're doing what you're doing. I say that first, and I think it's key for anyone, because if they don't have clarity in what it is that they're trying to do, then they're never going to know if they've achieved it. Once they know what it is that they're trying to get out, you start looking at success has nothing to do with transactions or dollar volumes or anything like that. It's, have you created the lifestyle that you're looking to? Maybe you only want to do 4 or 5 transactions a year and just have enough money to pay for health insurance or college fund or whatever it is. That's fine. So how are you going to do that? Spend some time to plan that out, number one. Number two, make sure that you know who you are and what you're going to represent to the public. And as you look through, decide what are you going to focus on, whether it be open houses, whether it be a direct mail campaign. Understand what those things mean, because the truth is everyone thinks they've got to do 10 or 12 things in order to generate leads in business, and they don't. I mean, there's agents all across the country whose thing is open houses, and they're ridiculously successful at it. There's other ones where it's, social media, and they're ridiculously successful at that. So be clear on that, and find, if there's something that you don't want to do, you're not going to do it. Even though I love speaking to people and I love meeting people, I hate the phone. You could chain me to a desk, and I'm not going to pick up the phone and make 100 phone calls in a day. I understand that, so I outsource that. The calls can be made, but I'm not going to do it. And then number 3, commit to personal development. You're only going to grow as much as you're going to grow. Commit to reading, commit to attending events, commit to learning. And in saying that, it's kind of funny. I've heard you say that for years. I've read books from Tony Robbins. I read Darren Hardy. I listen to CDs in the car from Jim Rohn, and I'm like, damn it, they're all saying the same thing. Now, obviously there's an influence from Jim in everyone I just mentioned, but it doesn't matter. It's not rocket science, but you've got to commit to learning it, and understanding and growing.
I think that's so critically important. I mean, to me, you've just sort of summarized some of Jim's core belief systems. First of all, get clear on why you want to do things, and so many times people are looking for those magic answers or magic bullets that you mentioned earlier, when the answers are really inside.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that if we look internally, it makes a huge difference. It's interesting. I'm working on a new program right now called The Power of Personal Development that really sort of summarizes that, because to me, that is really the key, is that most of the answers we're looking for are not out there, they're in here. And
isn't it, and you would know, isn't it, I believe it's Jim that actually is the one in one of his talks actually says, everyone is always out there searching for what they think they know, but it's either 80 or 90% of everything they need to get where they want to go, they already have access to.
I mean, that's so true. I mean, to me, it comes back to, Earl Nightingale's great talk, Acres of Diamonds. I don't know if you're familiar with that story. You leave searching for everything, and the diamonds were always, right where you started.
Yes.
And that's where I think so many people get sidetracked and lost. So I just want to do a couple of quick things. I call this sort of the lightning round.
Okay.
So what do you think holds most people back from being a great realtor?
Their own personal beliefs. They either believe they can or they can't, and they're right in both situations.
So what is the best advice you've ever been given as a real estate professional?
Oh, best advice ever as a real estate professional. Don't chase the money, don't chase the transactions, and always make it about the other people. Have the heart of a servant.
All right. So share one of your personal habits that you think has contributed greatly to your success.
I would say it's the commitment to personal development. I start and the habit of my mornings are my cherished time. I mean, usually 5:15, I'm usually up. I'll read some inspirational material in the morning. I'll sit with a journal for 15 or 20 minutes and jot ideas down, and just not so much make a lot of noise, but just take time to listen. If we actually just sit time quiet for a little bit and listen to what we're being told, the answers are quite often there.
All right. So, why don't you share with our listeners one internet resource that you think they could benefit from utilizing?
Internet research. I honestly think it depends on their own situation. I mean, for us, we're huge fans of either Dropbox or Copy. Especially being in multiple locations, we're able to share documents, procedures, systems very, very quickly. And Google Hangouts, we love as well.
So, how do you use Google Hangouts?
So for me, what we do now is again, having a conversation on the phone is one thing, but keeping the culture alive within the team is important. So no matter where I am, every morning we can spend 10 minutes, bring ourselves up on a screen like we are right now, and you still have that connection. So you're able to tap in, and it's a virtual meeting. I mean, it's almost like you're sitting across the table.
All right. So, do you use Google Hangouts at all with your clients?
We haven't done, but as I've started to see what the possibility is, as we've used it within the team, I can see that being very beneficial to use with the clients. Although we haven't used Google Hangouts, we have used FaceTime to walk them through a property.
All right. I think there's so many possibilities there that I think agents tend to miss. So, what is one book that you would highly recommend that every real estate professional read?
Only one. The Compound Effect by Darren Hardy.
Okay.
Success is sequential. Everyone's looking, it's those habits again. It's doing, everyone thinks, well, if I just did this, and they think they got to move mountains in order to get to that next level, but you don't. It's being consistent in the little things repetitively day after day after day that will pay out huge in the long run.
Well, and it's interesting. I love that book. And it's interesting. I read that book for the second or third time. And then I reread Talent is Overrated.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if, and to me, it's like such an interesting, okay, it really is the consistency of repetition. It's developing those internal habits. I do think that the habits of our daily life become, they start out those little threads, but as we repeat them over and over again, they become the chains that hold us into not changing and not doing things differently, that can really become great hindrances or great opportunities if we've taken care of to do them right.
Right.
So I know this is an interesting question, and I just would love to get your thoughts on this. Imagine if tomorrow morning you woke up and you were a real estate agent and nobody in Temecula, Dallas, wherever you were, knew you. You were starting out and you had $5,000 in cash. That was your total amount of money that you had to invest into building your real estate business. How would you do it? What would you do for the next 90 days to establish your real estate career?
Call Greg Herder and tell him I need a brochure. So to a certain extent, I almost did do that in Dallas. I basically knew one family. So in looking at that, it's the one area that we've honestly focused on where I think is some of the most beneficial or cost-effective things that you can do is we'll use social media. We'll run Facebook ads. I mean, $5,000 in Facebook ads can go a long, long way in generating people that you don't know in order to get in front of them with some information.
So give us a quick overview of how you would approach Facebook ads.
Well, we use Facebook ads for a variety of different things. So we'll run Facebook ads on some of the special reports that we've been created. So, there's a lot right now being done for home valuations, and I think that's almost getting a little bit overdone to a certain extent. So we will use them for special reports for buyers and for sellers. We will also use them almost in a manner of circle prospecting. I I mean, you can get so specific with the areas within Facebook. So if we just list the property, we'll create a landing page for that property or a single property website, and we'll send out a just listed through a Facebook ad. We may even start before there if we've got time and do a coming soon, interest list now forming, and then follow that up with a just listed. When we go pending, we will do the same Facebook ad and said we're now in escrow. Obviously, we're specifically talking to that community. We do another one when it's just sold. Right after the just sold, we may then follow back up and go, another one just sold, interested in your home's value. So now all of a sudden these people are in there, and whether or not they're clicking or not, they're seeing you. And it's like, well, he just listed, just another escrow, just this. And it just really starts, it's that hyper-local farming that 10, 12 years ago, the only way we could do it was through direct mail or door knocking or hangers or something like that.
Well, and to me, I do think that, I call it digital online farming is the wave of the future of real estate, and it is taking the same concepts of the old direct mail and staying in front of a consistent audience on a regular basis.
Right.
The other thing that I think that I want to make sure that people understand about what you're saying about Facebook advertising, you're not trying to sell a house directly.
No.
You're trying to get people to opt in, to give you a name and an email, and just to see you and build your brand consistently over time. And I think so many people lose sight of the fact that you can't just sell a house directly. It's how do I engage them, get them to know me, and how do I get them to take a simple, non-threatening next step forward?
Well, I agree, because if you look, when we were building our brand here in Temecula, we used image ads. We used, power cards, postcards, a lot of direct mail. We used community events, and those are all still important. But every lifestyle magazine I used to advertise in out here is out of business. They don't exist anymore. So you don't have that aspect. The direct mail is still very effective because no one's doing it. But you start looking, and the concept is back then is when I used to go and see people, I'd have to, I'd always ask them, how did you hear about us? And you'd see them sit and think for a minute, and they go, we don't know. We just seem to see you everywhere. So, you had a sign that looked like everything else. I mean, it was all cohesive. That's basically the exact same thing now, but you're using a digital medium to do it. And I tell you what, I mean, if you've been mailing into an area and you're mailing once a week, or you're going to do, once a week for 8 weeks, or you're going to go every 2 weeks, if you've got a strong online presence, you can actually back that off a little bit, and it still becomes extremely effective because it's just another touch piece.
Now, do you do retargeting as well?
We have not. I'm very interested in it. I think I heard you speak on it about a year ago. I wrote a note on it then, and it isn't something that we've really gotten into as of yet, but it's definitely on our map going forward.
All right, I would highly recommend that you check that out, because I think it's such an incredible opportunity just to want people to see you. Suddenly they see you everywhere.
Right.
I mean, in some ways it's almost a little strange and a little creepy, but it's an incredibly effective marketing tool.
Yeah.
So, Andrew, I know our listeners have gotten great value from listening to you today. As we wrap this up, is there any final things that you'd like to tell agents about, what they need to be focused on, or some advice that you would like to share with them?
Don't give up. Commit to developing and growing yourself. It's like I said, a light bulb went off with me, 12, 18 months ago. And I suddenly kind of realized that I'd been listening and seeing and reading the same stuff for 10, 12 years. But until you've grown as an individual and you're in a place to truly hear it, the message won't have the same meaning. And you keep hearing a lot, run it like a business, and that's really key. You truly do have to know your numbers. You have to be clear on where you want to go. Plan it out. If someone's looking for help in that area or what they're doing, Scaling Up by Vern Harnish is a great resource, and he's got all kinds of free downloads on getting very clear on where you want to go, how to create a one-page strategic plan, what it is that you need to know in your numbers. And the minute you're clear on that, it's going to be a lot easier for you going forward. And as hard as, the funny thing is, it sounds, it could sound today, as I've spent a lot of time talking about, really making a difference and purpose and all of that. The ironic thing about it is when you don't make it about yourself, the transactions and the income appear naturally, more so than when you're constantly chasing them.
I really hope our listeners hear that, because that makes such a huge difference. And I really believe that's been an absolute critical key to your success. If an agent had a question that they wanted to ask you,
Yes.
how can they contact you?
Email is usually the best way. Andrew at theandrewsmithteam.com will find me no matter where I am. And I'd be happy to, to answer, schedule the call if someone wants it, or anything I can do to help.
You'd even be willing to do a Google Hangout, right?
We'll set up a Google Hangout.
All right. Well, Andrew, I really want to thank you for your time here today. I appreciate your willingness to share your insights and advice with people. So thank you very much. And I hope we can do this a year from now and find out the next chapter of this
journey
in multiple offices, in multiple locations. I know it's going to be very exciting, and I can't wait to see your success going forward. So,
well, I would love to do that, and really appreciate you giving me the time today.
All right. Well, thank you, Andrew, and have a great day, and have a good flight back to Dallas.
Will do. Thank you.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye.
If you enjoyed today's interview with Andrew Smith, please do me a favor, hit the like button below, and leave your comment on the number one takeaway that you got out of it. I know Andrew will appreciate your feedback. Also, if you'd like any information about any of Greg Herter Training's online training program, from past client follow-up to personal development, whatever it is you're interested in, let us know. We would love to be part of your successful future. Also, if you could do me a favor, if you found this interview valuable, please share this interview in social media. It would mean the world to me. Your sharing is a way to help get our message out to more and more people, and you'll make a difference to the people who have an opportunity to hear Andrew. Thank you for watching, and I hope you have a great day.